Greetings and welcome. This is the Sale Guru Show with me, Rajiv Makni, and it's Apple time. Yes, we're going to do the Apple 14 Pro, new iPhone from Apple. You all already know it. We'll start off with the brand new Apple phones, the iPhone 14 Pro, of course, the Max and the normal 14 Pro. Now, new iPhone from Apple. Premium design, yeah, well, it is in every which way. मतलब 2 साल पुराना है. So whatever, it looks pretty good. Improved camera sensors, we've seen a real huge difference in that. The all-new dynamic island, we'll talk about that. The upgraded display with always on and the dual speakers, which of course have always been there, but sounds a little bit better. The A16 Bionic chip may not be the greatest leap forward that we were really expecting, but still pretty good. But photo quality and video, whole new level. And then we'll move on to the iPhone 14 versus the iPhone 13. This is the big story, right? I mean, what's same, what's different, minor changes between the two. So which one should you be picking up, which is maximum value for money? Then we'll move on to a very interesting segment, something that happened with me where a person asked me a question about glass. And from there came this incredible story that you've got to see. My favorite story this week. Let's get started with today's show. So our top story today is the iPhone 14 Pro and the Pro Max. Now I have to say that we must start off first by talking about the design. Similar design, of course, it's still premium build quality, absolutely fantastic. Heavy phones, you feel like you're buying real quality, but it is 3 years old. Larger camera cutouts, dynamic island, we'll talk a lot about this. The 6.7-inch OLED display, a little bit more bright, 2000 nits of peak brightness when you take it outside. But that's not what you're going to get indoor. That only gets triggered when you're outside. IP68 rating. The new A16 Bionic chip, is it as big a leap as we thought? No. The 48 megapixel main sensor, again, brilliant stuff. But again, it is a pro user. You'll only use it for pro RAW mode mainly. But still, the photography and video output is brilliant. Prices start off at 1,29,900. Is this the phone to buy? Well, our review will tell you all.
Cupertino's apples are some of the best in the business. And you know what they say, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Yes, we are talking about the iPhone 14 Pro series. The hugely anticipated, massively controversial, dynamically different iPhone 14 Pro series is finally here with us. And here's everything you need to know about Apple's new flagship smartphone. iPhones have built their legacy around premium design and materials. The stainless steel wrap around frame and glass combine the tradition of luxury and in-hand feel that cuts above everything else in the industry. This year, you will observe even larger camera cutout to accommodate the improved sensors. The already large module has been upsized further and sits distinctly proud of the frame. However, what you are here for lies at the front, is the dynamic island, possibly the most radical change to the iPhone's display composition in years. The Pro series ditches the large notch that Apple pioneered with the iPhone X. Instead, this year's models use a confluence of software and hardware to create a notch that is unlike everything. To start off, yes, there are two cutouts here, one for the camera and the other for the Face ID system. But the dynamic island software system uses the magic of pure black OLED levels and intuitive software to create a pill-shaped touch surface around it. The island shrinks when there is no use for it and expands when you are using it for timers or music or transit directions. It will even playfully bounce around when you tap it. Long press the island and a widget lets you interact with interface elements. Tap it to get back into the app. It's beautifully simple, though a bit lacking in integrations at the moment. That said, we can't wait for more apps to support it soon. Also upgraded is the display itself. The iPhone 14 Pro Max here sports a 6.7-inch panel that goes all the way to 2000 nits, now for visibility even under extreme sunlight. Combined with the inky black levels of OLED screens, the screen makes for a formidable multimedia companion. This year, the iPhone 14 Pro Max also gets another popular feature from Android phones. However, Apple's implementation of an always-on display is dramatically different from what we have seen so far. Instead of lighting up just a few notifications or a clock, the always-on display keeps the entire screen switched on to display your wallpaper. Elsewhere, there's the usual high-quality dual speaker system as well as an IP68 rating for dust and water resistance. How's the performance, you ask? Unlike the iPhone 14, the iPhone 14 Pro series is getting a solid upgrade to the performance stack with the A16 Bionic that is enabling a range of new experiences. Of course, gaming and everyday performance are just as good as any other iPhone. The interface stays at a fluid 120Hz while games push maximum frame rates. Similarly, while Apple doesn't disclose battery sizes, the iPhone 14 Pro Max easily managed a full day of use even with the always-on display switched on. Unfortunately, fast charging still isn't anywhere as fast as the competition, and charging the phone takes well over an hour. Let's talk cameras. The Apple iPhone has stuck to its 12-megapixel resolution for several years now. However, taking one more note from the Android playbook, Apple is finally introducing a high-resolution 48-megapixel sensor on the main camera. Using the magic of pixel binning, Apple claims increased sensitivity, dynamic range, and all-around improvements to picture quality. Does it live up to the promise? Boy, it does. The biggest camera update in years makes the already good iPhone camera even better. During our testing, we observed significantly better dynamic range and detail handling. The difference becomes even more obvious in low light. That said, Apple has opted for a slightly over-sharpened look that might not appeal to everyone. The real differences become even more apparent when shooting in RAW mode. For pro photographers, the exceptional amount of detail and limited noise make it the perfect option for on-the-go photography. Additionally, fans of shooting video will also benefit from the advancements here. For one, cinematic mode now supports 4K 30fps video. Moreover, Apple is debuting a new action mode that brings GoPro-like stabilization to your phone. While the resolution tops off at 2.8K, the camera can compensate for heavy movement while running or fast action. The ultra-wide camera and telephoto lens, too, have received an upgrade and now capture more detail and light. Interestingly, an added benefit of the 48-megapixel resolution is that Apple now offers a 2x zoom mode that crops into the high resolution to offer a middle ground between the 1x settings and 3x setting. Like every iPhone before it, the iPhone 14 Pro is an exercise in restraint and deliberation. With each passing year, it is still becoming harder to say it is the best phone in the market, but that's not bad. Competition is good. However, Apple's diametrically different approach of thoughtfulness and feature addition only when it's ready for prime time makes the phone stand out against cutting-edge Android devices. Priced at Rs 1,29,900 and above, the iPhone 14 Pro phones are pricey, but you can't put a price on luxury and elegance, and that's exactly what you get here.
And from there, let's move on to the big question that every one of you has been asking, and that is, the look is the same, the feel is the same, what's different between the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 13? And this is where I think we really need to get deep into it to tell you whether you should upgrade or not, number one. Number two, and even if you're not on a 13, if you have maybe a 10 or 11, at that point, should you be upgrading to the 13 or the 14? Can I give it to you in one sentence? Buy the 13.
This is the new iPhone 14. It looks like the iPhone 13. It has the same processor as the iPhone 13, but it costs 10,000 rupees more than the iPhone 13. Confused? There's more than meets the eye here. Hi, this is Rubina Mongia, and we are going to help you decide if you should pick the iPhone 14 or the iPhone 13 in this Cell Guru comparison. Put the iPhone 14 and iPhone 13 next to each other and the differences are impossible to detect. The phones look identical with a minor difference in weight, and that is undetectable in your palm. So what's changed? Performance. Did you know that the iPhone 13 Pro and the iPhone 13 had very different versions of the A16 Bionic? Well, the iPhone 14 now gets the same iPhone 13 Pro variant that packs an additional GPU core for better graphics performance. That additional core helps the iPhone 14 maintain better frame rates in intensive games like Genshin Impact or Call of Duty. Keeping pace with the higher performance envelope is an ever so slightly larger battery on the iPhone 14. Perhaps the biggest improvement though is the all-new camera. The iPhone 14 clips one more feature from the iPhone 13 Pro, and that's the primary camera sensor. The larger camera sensor is brighter and significantly improved light gathering capacity for low-light photography. Moreover, the phone can now record cinematic video in 30 fps and 4K 60 fps video as well, which was not possible with the iPhone 13. Other improvements include Bluetooth 5.3 as well as the new satellite-based emergency SOS feature that is exclusive to the iPhone 14 series. Unfortunately, this one won't be available in India. So, should you upgrade to the iPhone 14 or save some cash with the iPhone 13? That's the million-dollar question. For smartphone photographers who want the extra capabilities, the 10,000 rupees difference is a no-brainer. The iPhone 14 has superior low light and video capture, both of which alone is worth the slight premium. Everyone else, save your cash and pick the iPhone 13.
Let's take a quick break right now on the show. When we come back, lots more happening. Now let's move on to the story that I said I'm really going to enjoy bringing it to you because I had a great time with it. So let's talk about it. Glass. We touch it, we see it, we look through it, we look at it. In fact, it's estimated that we interact with glass around 1 to 5,000 times a day. Now I have a small little game I want to play with you. I was asked this question a few days back and I got my answer completely wrong. Let me see how well you do. Here's the question. Besides the obvious places, what are the other places glass is used for? Critical places. Don't think conventional, think out of the box. I'm going to give you a few seconds. Think about it. Where do you think it's going to be used? So typically it would be glass on our phones, screens, TVs, windows. But did you know it's also used for fiber optics and making microchips? I didn't know that. That would also mean that the entire internet and all the computing world, all the stuff we do on all devices would not happen if we didn't have glass. I learned this from a person I met at Corning Glass. Over the last 170 years, Corning's glass technologies are enabling new opportunities across augmented reality, flexible displays, connected displays, and sectors like automotive and healthcare also. Glass plays a very important role in developing our digital experience for us. It is critical in making semiconductors that are the brains of our devices. And the lightning fast data transfer, when you're doing you want 1 Gbps connection for your internet and all of that, that's all happening over optical fiber also. So it starts with glass, it builds on glass, and it ends with glass, from microchip to fingertip. I was quite surprised to know the role of glass and where it's used. To find out more, I spoke with John Bayne, Senior Vice President and General Manager, Mobile Consumer Electronic, Corning. Thank you so much for joining us, John. It's been quite a while since we haven't spoken, and I was just taken aback when I heard about all the things that glass can really do. So once again, thank you for joining us.
It's so good to see you again.
So John, the first thing that I think everyone will want to know, including me, is that most people don't know about glass and its importance in tech. From fiber optics to chipset, what role does Corning play in this entire ecosystem?
Well, Corning is vital to progress in society. Our products touch people's lives in so many ways every day, but they just don't realize it. For example, if people wake up and check their social media feed or post a picture, the device they're holding has glass that makes the display work. It has Gorilla Glass that protects the device. The image or the data or the text most likely goes down optical fiber developed and made by Corning. If you drive a car, it could use our catalytic converter technology to keep the bad emissions out of the atmosphere. If you got a vaccine, it could have been delivered in a Corning vial. So for most people in a given day, they could have interacted with Corning products multiple times. In fact, our optics help make the semiconductor chips that make the devices work and the cars work and everything around us work. So Corning is so vital to progress, but we've always had a quiet confidence about our products. We don't feel the need to go out and shout about what we do. We know it's important to society,
Okay, so the part, John, that is fascinating is the microchip to fingertip is a really interesting story. And from what you've described, Corning plays a super critical role out there. But my obvious question then is, why do you take so long to tell this story?
The importance of connectivity during COVID became so clear because people were studying from home, they were working from home, they were doing video calls. And we said, Corning plays such a role in enabling connectivity. Wouldn't this be a good time to tell our story of how we enable the chips in the devices and in the data centers and in 5G and 4G, but also we enabled the electronic devices like the laptops and the tablets and the handhelds that the smartphones people are using. So we decided, why don't we just tell people this story and the vital role that Corning plays in microchip to fingertip.
Okay, and now, John, what I want you to do is explain it, microchip to fingertip, in more detail. How did you come up with this concept? What does it really mean?
Sure. So we don't make the actual microchips or semiconductor chips, but the equipment that makes those relies on Corning optical components. For example, to write a chip, you need photolithography equipment. That's basically how you direct a laser to write the features. These super smart people are making these tools are writing computer chips at 3 nanometer features. To actually write those chips, we make optical components that go in the laser modules, and then we actually make the lenses and mirrors that steer that laser light through the photolithography machine to actually write the chip. We also make optics to inspect the chips and the wafers. So our products are embedded throughout the entire semiconductor supply chain to enable the advanced chip manufacturers to make their products. Without our products, you couldn't make chips. So that's part of the story. So we help make the chips. Then when you transmit the data, it goes down optical fiber where you have lasers pulsing 10 billion times a second to get video content, images, text, emails down through the internet. We make that optical fiber. In fact, we were the first company to develop low-loss optical fiber.
Wow, that's really interesting and great knowledge. Now, John, the part that blows my mind is Corning's role in microchip manufacturing and the potential this offers. Is this something new, or has Corning always been in this space, developing microchips?
Well, it's interesting. No, we've been involved in microchips for a long time, but the versatility of glass, Corning is a glass founded on optics, glass, and glass ceramics. So we have the glass and the semiconductor, which plays at the nanometer scale. But if you can imagine this, Rajiv, we have components on the James Webb Telescope, which sits 1.5 million kilometers from Earth. So think about the versatility of glass. It's used to make features super small at the nanometer scale, and also used on an object that's 1.5 kilometers from Earth, looking millions of light years into space. And glass enables that entire continuum. It's just amazing how versatile this product is.
John, I have to say, microchips, of course, the lifeblood of the current world, and it seems Corning is the oxygen within. Will this be a big focus for the company going forward?
What happened during COVID is that there was a little bit of a supply shock, and people slowed down their investment in semiconductor because nobody knew what was going to happen to the economy. But at the same time, there was a demand shock where people bought more devices because they were working and studying from home. So that's why you're seeing people, they can't get their cars in a timely manner. They can't get their appliances because the world's short of semiconductor chips. And it's not just the most advanced chips, but it's some of the legacy chips as well. So we've seen tremendous growth the last few years in semiconductor equipment. And we think eventually it will settle out. But historically, semiconductors grown at about the rate of GDP. Because computer chips are so prevalent today, we think the long-term growth will be about 2x GDP. So it's been a good business for us in the past. It's growing very rapidly now, and we think it's going to continue to grow, probably 2x its historical rate. So it will continue to be a very important story for Corning. But also we see other mega trends out there that we'll participate in, like augmented reality, for example, or bendable displays. And also our optical fiber business is growing rapidly because the world's thirst for bandwidth is just incredible. It's growing so rapidly.
Wow. So is there more, John, from the Corning story that we don't know, something else that is staggering yet unknown?
How do you get to be around for 170 years unless you're constantly innovating and advancing? We'll continue to sell the products we've talked about, these optical components to enable semiconductor, our optical fiber, our Vial Glass, Gorilla Glass, but we're always advancing, like I said, bendable, augmented reality. And another one we haven't spoken about is automobiles. So as we go to electrification of automobiles and autonomous driving, you're going to see more glass content in a car. You have LiDAR sensors and radar sensors to help direct the car. That requires glass components. You need lightweight glass so the cars can go further on electric charge, but that glass has to be structurally sound because you have to protect the people in the car. And also, the entire cockpit eventually is going to be glass. Today, you look at a dashboard or a cockpit, and over here is a glove box. Nobody puts gloves in the glove box or a map for that matter. So why don't you have a display in front of the passenger and actually a display around the whole car? And nothing in a car is really square or flat. So this glass is going to be curved and have features and curves to it and bends, which is perfect for Gorilla Glass. So another mega trend we haven't mentioned yet is more glass in cars as we go into electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. And there's other things out that we're looking at collaborating with our customers. But the one thing you can count on is Corning will continue to advance, will continue to be vital to progress, and all that will revolve around glass and glass ceramics. Rajiv, we would love to host you in Corning and show you all the cool stuff we do here in upstate New York. So anytime you're ready to come, we'd be happy to host you and take you through our labs and show you all of our great technology and great products.
Okay, John, I'm going to take you up on that offer. I'm going to come down to Corning and experience all the things. We just spoke about it all today. I want to come and actually see it in action. See you soon.
Sounds great, Rajiv. We'll see you soon. Take care.
That then was the Sale Guru Show for this week. But do remember, so much more coming up next week. The Apple stories just got started. The AirPod Pro 2, the new watches, the Ultra, all of that coming very, very soon. See you then.